Okay.
Now, more people come on now just because 11:30 is the target time they shoot for.
Okay, well, Debbie asked me if I had a full day today. So I have this, and then I have to go bowling this afternoon. And then tonight I have to pick up the girls and go to Morris Township to play poker.
I want
I
that
do
day. I
have-
want that life. Mhm.
Yes, oh my gosh.
I do have a full day. So want me to start?
So anyway, without any further ado, everybody knows our Queen Carol, who has been in the business for 43 years now.
Mhm.
She is of emeritus status with the NCJR, or local board, which means is once you hit 40 years in the business and you've paid new NCJR their dues for 40 years, you no longer have to pay the dues anymore. So see what you guys all have to look forward to. Now, first of all, you have to make it through 40 years in real estate, okay? And look like Carol does on top of it. But anyway, a plethora of knowledge, great mentor or partner, as we like to say, still meets with her mentors each year, regardless of when they started, and just always here to help anybody who needs help, regardless of who they are. And just a pleasure to have around. So Carol.
Okay. Hi, everyone. What I wanted to start with, I wrote down a question, which is how I got started, why, where, and when. I thought it's important for you to know how it was way back when I started. When I got my license was in 1977, and at that time, you had to have a sponsor. So Alice Slattery, which was a small office on Route 10 across from the Whippany Diner, she sponsored me. So you didn't just get your license right away. You didn't go to her course. I had to go, I don't know how many weeks, like one night a week I went, and then I finally was able to go take the test, and I went to the county college to take the test. And all while I was taking the course, there were about 5 girls that we were all friendly. And I want to say none of those 5 were in the business except me. They all dropped out. My best friend, who is the listing that I have in Llewellyn, she got her real estate license the same time I got mine, but she didn't want to be a real estate agent. She wanted to work in a real estate office. And so that's what she became a secretary in one of the offices. In fact, I think she worked in like 5 different offices. So I wound up working for Alice Slattery. And way back then, the manager could tell you what to do. I mean, Alice said, you have to be in the office at 9 o'clock and you can't leave until 5. You can have a half hour for lunch. And that was it. I didn't know any better because I was coming from being at home. My son was in middle school and my daughter was in high school. I was tired of doing all the volunteer work. So I'm going to go back a little bit. My friend Cynthia and I, we decided that we have to do something. Instead of doing all the volunteer work, we said we have to do something to make money. So we went to apply for a travel agent course. And the travel agent course was full. So the girl said, why don't you go for real estate? So that's how I got into real estate. She gave me the suggestion and I did it. So now it's been 43 years later. What was it like then? There was absolutely no training at all. They didn't send you any place. This was a small mom and pop office that I worked for. I was at the front desk, so I would answer the phones. And if there was somebody that came in that wanted to list their house or sell their house, the manager, Alice, would say, oh, they're my people, or they're her sister's people, or they were her boyfriend's people. So I could never really do anything. So finally, I did get the opportunity to sell a house, and I didn't even know how to write up the contract. And the funny thing was that the fellow who had the listing, I told him, I said, I want to write up an offer on your listing. And I said, I can't get a hold of Alice, and I really don't know how to do it. So he was working for Sterling Thompson, which was it was at the railroad station in Whippany. So he came to Alice's office, and he helped me write up the contract. I read up the contract, and sure enough, the house sold. And then after that, things were picking up a little bit. But after like a year and a half, this same broker that helped me write up my first offer asked me to come work with him, and I did. And I went up to Denville, and it was a Sterling Thompson office. And then when I was there, we wound up changing to Century 21, and then again Remax, and we went to Remax. But during that time, the only training that I had was Century 21. They did have some training, but I took part in every seminar that they had. I went to the board office. I went to the I even wrote them down so I could remember. And Tommy Hopkins seminars, Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, any kind of training that there was, I wound up getting. So the first designation that I got was, I guess it was the GRI, and that took me like a whole year to get GRI. I got my SRES, which is Seniors Residential Specialist, because I used to work with a lot of seniors, and now I am one. So I know what seniors are like. And a certified residential specialist. But at the time, if you took the GRI course, which really was for a whole year, if you took GRI 1, 2, and 3, the fourth one was your broker's. So if you were able to take that, you got your broker's license. So I have had my broker's license since 1983. We didn't have the internet in the beginning. We didn't have cell phones. So it was a little different. Now you have, you're so lucky, you have all your listings on there. We used to have these little sheets about this size, and they came in like every week from the board, and it was the, I think it was called the Morris County Board of Realtors. We were just in Morris County. So you get these little sheets, you have a notebook, and then you would put them all in. And then when they went under contract, you got something and you change it and whatever. Then eventually, after a while, they got to a big book where they you'd sign up and you would get the book. And that was nice because everything was in the book. And you'd be able to look up everything, and you got the book. And then eventually we did get computers, and we did get cell phones. But in the beginning, it was a more personal thing. You were able to, if people liked you and you got them from an ad in the paper, there's no more ads in paper. But, we would advertise in the newspaper, or we would put a sign on the lawn. So people would either pull on the sign and they'd get you, oh, look, this is what the book looks like, and it was, Morris County, and it was a big book, and I really liked the book, and sometimes, that was 2000, sometimes what we would do, if you had a buyer or a seller that you worked with, sometimes you just give them the book and let them look at the book, and they can do their own comparison. Because market analysis, I didn't know how to do a market analysis. I think somebody taught me once, just write it down all on the paper, the houses and everything, but there were no forms, there was no nothing. You had to learn, yourself until really Century 21. I thought they were pretty good. The contracts, you just couldn't send them the way we send them now. You had to bring them over to the attorney, which it really is a good thing now, but real estate agents, I tell you, but we're all lazy. We don't do those things. You know how important it would be to have that contract and bring it to the attorney and introduce yourself to the attorney, and the attorney would get to know you. But that's what we used to do. We used to do that. We used to have to go to somebody's house and get them to sign the paperwork. And we always presented contracts in person at the time. Now, I know Wyckoff likes you to do that, but other agents don't want you to do it. And I think a lot of the Wyckoff agents, to say this, but you're lazy, would rather just, email it. And sorry, but it's really not the right thing, to do. You should do those things in person. Through my career, I think I got most of the people that, that I was a $1 million producer. I was a Centurion with Century 21. I've done a lot of things, but most of my people came from my activities, the things that I did. We teased a little bit about what I do. I do bowl. And I just got a lead the other day from bowling. It didn't work out, but one of the girls said that somebody on her street, she saw that they were cleaning out and putting stuff out. She said, so I think he lost his wife. I think he's going to be selling. So last week I did go over and I did knock on the door. The guy said, no, he's not moving. But I said, well, could I give you my card? And he said, yes. So maybe he'll move in a few years. And if I'm still alive, maybe he'll join.
So you just went out and knocked on his door?
Yeah.
You just went out and knocked on his door?
I happened to be playing bridge right next door to it. And I asked her and she said, I didn't know he was moving. But I said, no. And so I walked right across the lawn and he did seem to know who I was. Unless I had my badge on, I'm not sure. But he said, no, Carol, I know who you are, because I used to live in that neighborhood. But he did know who I was, and he said, no, he wasn't moving. So that was a lead that I got from there. Rotary, I've been in Rotary for 28 years. I've gotten a lot of leads from Rotary. When you join Rotary, you're not supposed to push yourself or your business. At least that was in the beginning. Now they've changed it. Now you can do a lot of networking. But one of the things you can do is if somebody lists their home with somebody else other than you can't be upset with it because everybody knows somebody. I mean, everybody knows a realtor. So you have to be nice about it. So I do get a few leads from there. And so bridge and poker, I do get people. And in Rotary, my Rotary Club used to give out emergency dialers for seniors. And I was like, I started about 15 years ago. So we would buy the emergency dialers, and it's one that goes around your neck and press the button and it goes into 911. I did that, and for a while I did get leads from that because these were older people and they were going to die. and that is what was important about that was I used to have the little calendars, and which they're selling now for next year. So I'd always have my calendar on their refrigerator because they might be passing away, but if the kids that come in, if they see my card and they see that, so I wound up getting, getting some, getting some stuff.
Why would you see Carol
on the refrigerator?
Why I see Carol knocking the person down and then pressing the 911 button?
And no. I did a lot of floor time when I was with Century 21, up the street. They had a receptionist that would answer the phones, and then they had somebody who was on floor time, and then my desk was the next desk. And remember, I said I was the type of person that I got such good training in the beginning about being in the office all the time. I'm still an
She
office
still is,
person.
yes.
I like
Mhm.
to, I like to be in the office. So if the person on floor time didn't show up, I stepped in and took the floor time. Being close to the girl who answered the phones, if there was something they couldn't get, I wound up getting the leads. So by being in my office, I got a lot of leads, that really, really helped me, and then I want to mention something about, has anybody ever heard by referral only?
They have, but I
No.
don't think they have, no.
Okay,
I know,
and that's with,
Dennis is big with that
Yeah.
too. Mhm.
that's with Joe Stump. The manager that I had in my other office was one of their speakers and did a lot. So I went to all the Joe Stump workshops and speakers, and he paid for us. It's something that in order to use the by referral only, what do you call it, hand, not
Logo
signage,
or
logo.
branding, yes.
you had to pay. And the other person, Angie Borostic, was a
Mhm.
great by referral only person.
Yes.
It was really good, and I kept that on my card for a long time because it was free for me. Then when I had to start paying for it, I dropped it. But it was something really nice because you were able to tell people that you really just worked on referral only. I don't have to go out and knock on doors. I don't have to, mail out. People come to me because I get a lot of referrals, and I do. And that's what every agent, all of you, should be working for, is the referrals. Because I know Wyckoff has all these programs where, yes, you can get a lead, but then you got to pay for that lead. So if you can get your own referrals,
Oh,
and
of
not have
course.
to do anything, it's just so much better.
Mhm.
And that's what this program taught you how to do. Get your own leads and work with your own people. Trying to think what else I did. By referral only. You can probably search it online. It's Joe Stump is the one who's in charge of it. The other thing I did in my early years, in my career, which I told Dante about, and the girl whose house we were at who passed away, she was very good. She was like Solana, she was helped me a lot because my grammar and my typing is not too good. So what I did was I sent out my own newsletter every week, and it was Carol's News, and it was just on a piece of paper like this, letterhead. And the first column was what was happening in my life. What was happening, my in-laws. I mean, I talked a lot about my in-laws. I talked about my husband. So I talked about different things that were happening in my life. And I did it probably 4 times a year to my sphere, because that was before they had all, other things that we have now with Wyckoff. And then I would talk about my new listings. I talk about the mortgage, and it was all, in columns. And my friend Cynthia would set it all up for me because I didn't know how to do it. And she set it all up for me. And there was a spot on the bottom, if you know of anybody who's thinking about moving or selling, please call me. And then all I did was fold it over like this. And I had a seal that I put on it, put the address on it, and then I just put a stamp on it and sent it out. And I tried to do it at least 4 times a year. So if it was around Valentine's Day, I'd look something up on the computer, talk about Valentine's Day. Thanksgiving, I would talk, write something up about that. Something that would be good for somebody to read, and then something interesting. And I'm sorry I stopped that because after I left Cynthia, I came here and I had nobody that was really going to do all that for me. So I kind of stopped, doing that. But it was, I think I got a lot out of it because people knew about me. They knew that I was concerned. One story I wrote where I saw a lost child at the mall, and what I did and how I took care of that child until somebody came. I talked about my in-laws. So it kind of made people know what I was like. I wasn't just a real estate agent. I was a friend to them and the things that I did. I talk about my Rotary Club, talk about things like that. But as most of you know, I get teased all the time that I am eventually going to be leaving this business. The reason I stay in it is that my husband doesn't have a lot of hobbies except buying cars, and now it's looking on the internet for houses that we're not going to buy. So I just don't want to get in the habit of staying home and watching TV. We have our house cleaned, and never forbid I have to clean the house. So and the lawn is done. So there's not a lot of things for me to do. So I come in here and it's like adult daycare.
I actually love that. I actually think that's spot on.
I could come in. And when I was thinking of leaving a few years ago, my husband said, just tell your manager to give you a little desk in the corner, and you'll be happy. So you have some place to go. And I will tell you this, I did, and that I did give up my office because I felt that I really wasn't doing much. So I moved myself out of my office to a cubby. And then when I look around and I see people that, and I should say this, who are doing no business, and then they have an office, I kind of thought to myself, well, Carol, you were a real jerk. Why did you do that? So then I decided to move a desk in there and move back in because I feel like my seniority has got to count for something. So I moved back in there. I took Nancy on now as a partner on things that I feel as though I'm going to need help on. I took her on one of my neighbor was selling the house on Heritage, and I thought they were going to be, need a lot of hand holding. So I took her on for that. And another lead that I got was from my car salesman. In fact, the man owned the car dealership down the street because we had bought so many cars from them that he referred his mother or sister's condo, and I took Nancy did that one with me and a couple. Then and we've worked together,
very well.
Very well, no problems. But if it's something that I feel like I can handle myself, which is my friend Cynthia's, who was my best friend, her house, I'll do that on my own. And my daughter gave me her best friend, I had that house. So I am doing a few things, not a lot, like maybe 5, 6 things a year, and recurring. And that's all I really want to do. But something, when I was at my Rotary meeting the other day, the fellow that was sitting across from me, we were talking about real estate, and he asked me if I thought things are, well, actually, he said to me, are you doing this full-time, Carol, now, or are you just doing it part-time? And I was honest with him. I said, I have other activities, but I do go in the office to do my office meeting. I'll go in for some training, and I keep in touch with my people. And he said, something happened to me last week, and he said, I thought you would be interesting for you. His mother is up in Connecticut, and his mother has a friend that she plays bridge with. And he said, my mother's thinking about moving, and she is going to list her house with her bridge person who's a realtor. And I said, well, that's good. He said, but that's not the thing I wanted to tell you. He said, this woman knows that I might be moving up to Connecticut when I retire. So he said, this lady got my email address and just sends me some things like every month or every 2 months. She has never talked to me, but she just sends me little notes. And he said, I don't know, do you do anything like that? I said, well, yes, Riker does have a program like that. And he said, if I do decide to go up to Connecticut, I will definitely work with her because it's, she doesn't put any pressure on me. She just, sends some things and said, I just thought you'd like to, keep abreast of the things up here. You want to be close to the water. So I thought that was worth mentioning because, it is important for all the things that we do and all the things that Stephanie, helps with. It's just that my little brain, it has so much other stuff in there. I can't do it all. I just can't. But does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask of me about how I stayed in the business this long? Or where my
I think
business
the
got-
other side, it's been this long. 40 years is a lot, Carol.
43 years.
43 years. It's not, I like people. I like talk. I do like the training, but now I can't do it because I don't know it. So I can't do that. But I like being helpful, with Nancy and Marissa. Marissa calls me all the time. Not all the time. I don't want to say that, but you do call me. You do call me. I like doing that. I like.
Don't send her to retirement early, please.
Yeah, I like being in the office. Even though I have, a computer home and I have everything all set up at home. I just like coming into the. I like coming into the office. I like that. So nobody has any questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
You and I talked about
Stephanie?
this the other day. What is the one transaction in your brain that stands out of all your 43 years that was either amazing or terrible or anything that you can think of that just stands out, something that you can remember?
Well, the last one that Nancy and I did was miserable.
It was
I mean,
miserable.
It was my it was on my street, and the owner of the house happened to he was the mayor of Hanover Township for probably 20 years, 25 years. They just kept being mayor. And of course, the way he knew me was I was the realtor and my husband was the paper boy, because my husband would bring him his newspaper. The newspaper would be down the street. My husband would walk and bring the newspaper up to him. So when he passed away, the two sons wound up calling me, and I wound up getting Nancy involved with it, and Nancy will agree. They were just horrible people. I mean, they were not very nice. I think they gave Nancy a harder time than they gave me. I was kind of, Nancy, I don't know if you're listening to all this.
She is.
Yes. I was the pardon the language, but I was the shit on the bottom of their shoe.
They weren't that bad. They weren't that bad to me, but I think they were a little hard on Nancy, and we were trying to do the right thing. No, they weren't accepting the offers. We were bringing in good offers, and when we started talking about the people, this is a nice. No, we said it's a nice couple. They've got 5 kids. Your father had 5 kids. They got the boys and the girls just like that. He likes to play the piano. Carol, we don't care what they're like. We don't care. We just want the money. I mean,
It was
we
all
were
about money
getting,
to them. It was
we
all
were
about
getting
money.
answers like that. Don't tell me what they're like. I don't want to know. I mean, just really nasty, right, Nancy?
Yeah, they just weren't receptive, and they had one goal, like Missy just said and Carol said. It was all money driven, and they thought that the house, they had more of a sentimental attachment to it, I think, because it was their parents and ultimately their house growing up, than anything, because the wallpaper was literally falling off the walls, and the carpet, there was shag. We're talking 70s shag carpet throughout the house, nothing current. And they didn't see anything wrong with it. And why are people bitching about it? Because it's like the perfect place. And they just wouldn't take any, Carol has so much value to provide in selling. And I had my points as well, but more so, they just didn't care what we had to say. We were literally a key keeper.
Yeah.
We were not allowed to do anything, opening our mouth except to open the key, open the door.
However, Nancy, if you remember, the contract that came in, that they finally accepted,
And how many contracts did you accept?
I don't know, we didn't accept
Four.
them, we had them, but 6,
Yeah, there
7,
was about,
we had
yeah.
a lot of
It
contracts.
kept, yeah, there
We
was.
had a lot
there
of
was
contracts, but finally, and one contract was bumping out another contract, you know, I mean, it wasn't really very nice. But anyway, an agent, Caldwell Banker agent, actually he wasn't the agent, he was the broker of that company. He wound up getting his offer accepted. And all the other agents that we're dealing with were women. And he took this guy, he accepted that contract, and he accepted a BA loan on that. And I think they really didn't really want to deal with women. I think that you know, I mean, Nancy, think about it. It was,
There are
he
people
took
who are very
he took
condescending
that one
towards women,
guy
yes.
and he liked that agent, and they wound up taking that offer, the VA loan, which we were afraid of because there was so much wrong with that house. But anyway, it was a nice couple. They moved in right down the street from me. They walk their dog, and I see them and I talk to them. I am going to go. I've been invited up to the house to see their house. And I asked them again when I saw them, I said, you did go VA, didn't you? And they said, yeah. The guy had been in the military and had come out. And these two jerks that we're working with, they liked that. They did like that the guy was a veteran. So, you know, to say that much about him, they did like that, and they were willing to take that chance and to go with them, you know. So that's the worst transaction I've ever had, Stephanie. The worst one. Everything else has always gone well. I've never had any problems with buyers or sellers.
Yeah, they were just really unreasonably nasty people, and they knew better on everything. It didn't matter if I told them the sky, you know, how beautiful the sky looked, you know, that day. They just didn't care. They were awful. Anyway, yeah. Carol got it done. Yay.
We got it, yeah, we got it done, and that was it. So, but I would suggest to all you new
Which
agents,
is what I was gonna say, is what would
Try
be your
to-
suggestion to new agents getting started now?
try to join a local club, you know a lot about your town. Try to find as much out about your town as you can. I liked working in Hanover Township, and if I had a few listings and I did open houses, you know, you put the open house signs all over with your picture on and with your name. And I've had people say, oh, gee, you do a lot in town, or because they see the open house signs
Yes,
around. It's not
yes.
because I am doing a lot of
It's all
business.
perception in our business.
So I would say do that. And I think concentrating on, I know people would make fun of me because I think on one of the sites I said something about Hanover Township, and somebody said, well, don't you work other places? And I do, but I really think that being in a certain area really helps you, because the more listings you can get in that area, the more signs you can have up, the more business you're going to get. Plus the fact that some of you agents, I just broke my nail. Some of you agents, if you have get a listing up in a pack on, you do an open house, then you start getting more people. And do you really want to be traipsing up to a pack on? I'd rather have listings right around me so that it's easier to put up the signs and have everything and know about it and be the neighborhood specialist in your area. You know,
I think it was
that's more
easier to
important.
be a neighborhood specialist in past years. I don't think now it is. I think you have to spread yourself a
little
lot
bit
further,
more.
yes, in this environment, in this industry, to be more successful. Because I think there's a ton of more agents now than there was back then. So you have a lot more competition. And obviously with the inventory, there's not even enough homes for you to, you know, really penetrate a market in a way that you'd want to be successful.
Yeah, but it was always been, you know, in my era, it was always, try to be the neighborhood specialist,
Yes,
try to be the
yes.
one that people would call. And we do have a couple agents in my area that do have, the market share of the listings, and they do get called because
Yep.
they do have the market share of the listings. So their signs are up all around, and people do call them.
Yeah, and don't ever think that you can't be that person.
Oh,
Like, don't
no.
say, oh, so-and-so has this whole town buttoned up. I can't get in there. Oh, absolutely, you can.
Mhm.
You just have to do the same things that they did, which is invest in, they market consistently and religiously to that place, where they're on top of mind in that area. That's what they do.
Right.
They invest in themselves.
And the other thing that I will mention, because at one point I was the #1 agent in Hanover Township. This one time I was up against Caldwell Banker and Caldwell Banker, and I don't know who the other office was, but Missy wasn't the manager then. I can't remember who the manager was at the time, but she was able to look up the other agents' statistics.
Mhm.
And so she was able to, or he, whoever it was able to print out that I was #1. The next person who, I know what it was, we were up for a listing on Deerfield. I was looking to get a listing on Deerfield. So I had to show that I was #1. So maybe it was you, I don't know. But, and who was before you?
John Carlos.
John Carlos.
And then Justin Noble. And
And
then
it might have been
Carlos.
Justin at the end. But anyway,
No, no, no,
was
I don't know
able
who
to
was before
look,
Carlos.
was
That's
able to
my
look up
knowledge.
so that I was #1. The other person that had done a market analysis on their house and a presentation was second, and then the other one was third. So I had to use that when I did my listing presentation, because the guy said, because I remember we did it here in the office. He said, well, this agent has also done a presentation. Why should I list with you? And I was able to have that paper to show that I had more listings and more sales than the other two that had talked. So I don't know if you do that for anybody.
There was a few top agents that have me do that.
Yeah.
But for agents who don't have that presence in an area, then we could do the Waker chart for that town. And so that Waker has the most
Definitely.
presence and the biggest market share in that area. So we have that opportunity for you to share.
Mhm.
Um,
But I did get that listing only because I had that paper that showed, I think Lois DeCaro was one, I forget who the other one was, but I did have more market share in that area than anybody else. Yes.
3 years we started doing that, what would you say got better? What would you say got worse? If you were to expand.
Well, I mean, everything got better as far as the computer and the cell phones and the technology. I mean, it is so much, so much easier now. But I think you lose a little bit of the personal connection with people. I think that's what you lose. We used to take, I haven't worked with a buyer in a while, and I don't know how many of you do take the buyers out in your car. I think most of you, everybody has navigation, and you give them a list of first, second, third, where you're going, and you go. We used to use that time in the car to bond with the people, and you take them past.
it was
if you're
huge.
showing,
It was
if
huge.
you're showing a house, you'd take them by and you say, well, the shopping center is over here, the school is here. You would talk about all those things. Now you don't have that. I mean, that was the way we used to sell the houses more, because we'd be showing them the area, and we'd also be showing our knowledge of the area. So I think that some of the agents lose out on that,
Yeah, just think about when they used to be in our car with us for the whole day. After you left the house, they'd be chit-chatting about the house. So you know everything that they felt about the house because you heard them having a conversation with each other, and you'd be able, if there's objections or if there was something
able
that
to
you could
handle it.
overcome, you can handle it right then and there, or find out right then and there for them versus not knowing what happened because they're talking in their car, and by the time you get to the next house, you're like, so what did you think of that past house? Oh, it was okay, you know, like you missed all the good things
Right.
about it.
And you can give them, a couple of times I'd give them a sheet and they could make notes on it.
Yeah.
As what they
Mhm.
liked and what they didn't like about the house, so that you knew. So if you knew what they liked, what they didn't like, it was just so much easier then to find them in the next house. And, caravan, I wish we would get back to doing caravan.
We are.
Once we,
This week
once we
we're
get-
getting back to doing caravan. Kelly Romero is going to put together a caravan list for us on Wednesdays, so we can go out after our office meeting again. So that is
Because
starting again.
I think new agents, I think you miss out on a lot, because that's how you learn the areas, is by going on
And styles
caravan.
of houses
Right.
and what to
You
look
learn.
at for in a house, if we point things out. Yeah.
I'll also tell you a funny story of when I started working for Alice Slattery. It was a small building right next to the old firehouse in Whippany, right across from the diners. I told my husband I was going to be doing this, and he said, well, did you tell them, you have to tell them that when you got into real estate, that you had to have a 4-door car, and that I had to sell my Monte Carlo or something. So, because I said.
That sounds like Buzz. That sounds like Buzz.
So we had to sell his good car to get a 4-door car. But anyway, I hadn't been working for a while, because I think when I got out of high school, I got out of high school when I was 17, and then wound up, getting married at 21 and my first child at 23. So I had all those clothes, but then I didn't go back to work. So the kids were in middle school. So going back to work, I didn't have a lot of worky clothes. So I went out, and the skirts that I bought had buttons down the front. So I bought a black skirt, a navy blue skirt, I bought brown, and I bought a couple different tops. So I always had, different clothes to wear. So when I would take people out, and I had nice legs at the time. I mean, I was really hot at 42 years old. I was hot.
Somehow these things
so-
always tend to go downhill towards the end.
Anyway, so I would unbutton my, now you have to really go, but I would unbutton my my buttons, and so I come into the office, and Alice, my button that up.
Mhm.
I had a blouse that you could see through. She made me go home and change my blouse.
That is so
And
funny.
I was scared to death. I mean, your
Yes,
manager
she
tells
just
you
did
to
something
do
wrong
that.
with the blouse, a see-through blouse that she went to work in. She can't understand why they sent her home.
Yeah, well,
It's
please.
like Kathy, who's like Mary,
Yeah.
like sending me like,
Mhm.
you don't just skirt.
Yeah, and then,
Carol was literally trying to sell herself.
Apparently.
And then she would tell
No
you.
wonder Buzz tries to keep
One
her
of-
close. Now
one
we
of the-
understand.
She always told me, she
Mhm.
said, have the man sit in the back seat and have the wife sit up front with you.
Yeah, yeah.
And she would, she said, make sure, that. In the very beginning, when I worked with her, I had a listing, and it sold, and I had all the contracts, because I had the contracts, I had to bring them up to the listing and have them sign it, sign everything. So I brought them home. Some of you might have heard the story. I brought them home, and I put them on the dining room table. And when I got in the house that night, put the contracts there, not in a folder, and I had like 5 contracts, because you made photocopies or whatever. I had these contracts. And when I got home, I took my jacket, and it was a sweater, a cable knit sweater, took it off, and I threw it on top of the contracts. So I happened to, oh no, it wasn't my sweater. It was my sweater, but my daughter had it, and she threw her sweater on top. Well, I happened to look at the sweater, and the sweater had dirt on it, and I got so mad at my daughter. turn on the sweater. I took a rag and I started scrubbing. And after I was scrubbing and trying to get, I realized the contracts were underneath.
Oh,
Okay. So now I scrubbed through all but one contract. And of course, I was fairly new. I didn't know what to do. There was a book called, well, anyway, I had to bring the contract, and I was a nervous wreck. I had to bring the contract to the attorney. But before I did that, I did go back into the office and I told my manager. And I told her what had happened. She picks up the contracts, the ones that were ruined, and she rips them up. And she said, now go make 4 more copies. And the next time, put them in a folder, put them in your briefcase, and keep them in the trunk of your car. Don't let it happen again. She always yelled at me. So then, I mean, but this is the way, you know, you learn. I mean, Missy doesn't treat anybody like that, but Alice Slattery did. So then I had to go to the attorney, and I wrote the contract, and I happened to tell him that. I said, I didn't sleep all night. I felt like going out in the rain and drowning myself, that I had ruined all these contracts because they were all, you have to have original signatures then. I thought, oh my God, what's going to happen? And the attorney was very nice. And he said, get the book, The Ironious Song. He said, read that book. He said, because what we do, he said, we worry so much about things that we can't do anything about.
Yeah.
Did you? He said, read the books, so I did. Because I was awake all night worrying about what was going to happen to those contracts because I ruined them.
And that man is so passed away before I could go to any of the events. What's his name again?
Who?
The guy that was in the service.
Oh, I don't know. I forget who wrote it. But the practices of 10, whatever people. I mean, so I used to do a lot of reading and stuff like that. But there's really nothing, like for new people, there's nothing that you can do that we can't help you with.
Yeah, and then we
You
can't
know,
fix, right?
So never feel like you can't come back in and tell your manager, gee, I think I made a mistake. And what I told Dante the other day, we learn by making a mistake. When you make a mistake, you kind of talk about and say, I should have done this. So every time you go on a presentation, you might find, hey, I should have done this, I should have done that. I drove up the highway once with the contracts on the back seat of the car, had the windows open, and they flew out,
Seriously?
Yeah. I mean, so I've done a lot of things that, in the beginning, and that things can be taken care of. You can always make another copy. Now with everything on the computer, it's much easier for you guys than it was for me in the beginning. You have everything. You have good support with Missy, and you have good support with Stephanie and Solana, and all I have is my friend Cynthia. So as far as the board goes, I was their education chairperson for the board. I did a lot, and for those of you who don't know, I was Realtor of the Year at all of the realtors in Morris County, and I forget what year that was, 2003. I don't remember.
Carol, did you always work as an individual agent? Work with agents? Work on a team?
No, I was by myself.
Always individual?
Yeah, I was by myself.
But
Anyway,
give the new agents one thing that they should be doing to get their business going.
That is-
What's that one thing that they need to be doing consistently every single day out of all the
Well,
stuff that's given to them?
I think, calling everyone, and just letting them know your sphere, calling all the people in your sphere of influence, letting them know. And there's one thing that Carlos Siracusa, one line that he gave me that I use all the time is when you're talking to somebody, who's the next person that you can think of that's either going to be buying or selling a home? And if you just ask that, in the conversation, you say, by the way, who's the next person you could think of that's either going to be buying or selling a home? And sometimes people do, gee, my sister-in-law has been talking about it. But if you could start remembering that one line, that one question, somebody will give you an answer. And if they don't, so what? And what I told Dante the other day is when you're making phone calls, if you're calling the neighborhood and you're calling about a listing, that you can call if an agent in this office doesn't want to be making the phone calls, you can ask the agent, would you mind if I made the phone calls? And you just call and say, just want you to let you know, I work with Carol Palk. She just got a new listing. Do you know of anyone who might be interested, in that listing? And if they say no, and then you say, well, how about you? Are you thinking about moving in the next 2 to 5 years? And then find out. And if they say, they might say, well, yes, we are thinking, well, would you mind if I kept in touch with you? And that's how you build your pipeline of people. So the more people that you can have in your pipeline, the better, you're going to be. But it has to be a nice, soft approach that you have, with the people. And it's much better to, I think, to call friends and talk to friends and to make it. I used to have, like you all had one at one time. It was a chart and with blocks in it. And when we were making the phone calls, we would mark off how many phone calls it took to get a lead. And we all had that chart up years ago. We all had the chart up. And it would say, like 25, take us 25 calls to get a lead, a good lead. And so, and then we kept track of when the best time was. Was it in the morning? Some people don't, they say, oh, you don't want to wake anybody up. Now, not everybody, but a lot of people are working at home. So you can call all times of the day because people are there. So just get yourself on a schedule of making the calls. If you want to do it first thing in the morning, in the afternoon. And the other thing was, what I used to do is just block off your time. Don't accept, this is
A distraction.
this is bad, yeah. To put your phone on silence when you're making your phone calls and just make the calls. I mean, I used to tell the secretary, because we used to put calls through, don't put any calls through for me. And that's another, that was another thing that I used to do. If I was in the, somebody came in and I was with a buyer or seller in the conference room, I would just say to the person at the front desk, please hold all my calls while I'm with my people. And it would make the people feel like they were so important.
Right.
And so there's a lot of little tricks that you can do like that with your phone by saying, I'm going to put this on vibrate now or silence because, you're too important. I don't want to miss anything you're telling me. So I think really making the phone calls and join some organizations. Go to your local town hall when they're doing something. I've had 3 developments in my lifetime. Probably should have had more, but I only have 3 developments. I had one on Eland, not Eland, I can't think of the name of the street that it was on. It was a Weiger development that was expiring, and that was when I was with Century 21. One of the girls that I worked with, she was going away and I was covering for her and I was taking her people out. And I took them to this development. I want to say Eland Avenue, but it wasn't. It was in Rockaway. So I took them to this development. They didn't want to buy the house, but it was like the end of the Schweigert listing. And I wound up talking to the builder. His name was Ben. He was a big guy, and he always had a smile. He was disgusting. He was really disgusting. So wound
Those
up
little
talking,
details she needs to tell us. Those little
talking-
details.
talking to him. And when Barbara got back, we both went over because the listing was expiring. And it was like 25 homes. And we did it together because I was covering for her. I got the lead, so we did it 50-50. So it was great. They had a model home. First they had the trailer, then they had the model home. And we got a lot of double dips because we were able to get their listing on their house. Evergreen, it's called Evergreen. We wound up getting the listing on their home and being able to sell them something. And that was, I think, in 1987, right? Then I got another development of prefab homes in Denville, and they backed up to Route 46. And I think I did 5 homes there. I did that on my own. And then the other development was here on the boulevard, you know, which was 6 homes. But if you see a builder, you know, it doesn't hurt for you to just stop and talk to a builder. And if you get in the habit of going to the town halls and finding what's happening in your town, you know, if the builder's there for different things, you can talk to them and maybe get a lead in something.
So Carol's not afraid to stop and talk to people. She's not afraid to knock on their door, to stop and talk to them, which is great. It's
Yeah.
huge in our business. This is what we all need to be doing now, especially with the lack of inventory. But
But anyway, that's it.
yeah,
I
anybody
hope,
have any questions? Any other questions?
Pardon me? Oh, I have no idea.
Mm.
You know what? It's really funny, but I think it was 1987 and maybe, yeah. It was when I had that development. So I guess, you know. And then the other thing I want to talk to you about is goals. Making a goal. In the very beginning, that first year when, you know, with Alice and the part of that, my goal was to take my family to Disney. And I did, you know, I did make enough money to take, I didn't make much spending their money, but I did make enough money to take them to Disney. I had another goal was to make enough money to have my teeth capped, you know. That was something I wanted. I didn't want my husband to have to pay for that. So I did that. Another goal was to buy a vacation home, which, you know, I wound up, you know, doing that. So I think making a goal and making
Oh,
a
it's
goal for
huge.
something for your family, you know, something for your family. And you agents that have young children, you got to be able to use your kids. I mean, I use my not my grandson. I guess it was my nephew. I had made a deal with him if he could talk to people in his class. If he knew of anybody who was thinking about moving, I'd buy him a bicycle. You know, and I did. He gave me a lead, and I bought the kid a bicycle. So there are a lot of ways that you can get leads.
I told my kids when they were in high school, if they gave me a lead from someone who's selling, like their friend says, oh, we're gonna sell or we're gonna move, they would get $500.
Yeah.
It was huge.
Yeah.
It was huge.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you can do that. In fact,
But if you don't say it to them, they don't realize they have to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just about saying it to them, not even that they're like, oh, I can help out. Oh, I could, you know, like they don't realize it until you say it.
Right. And if you have children, you just tell them, hey, if you help me and if I can get this award or get that award, then we'll go someplace.
Yep,
you know,
exactly. Yes, bring everybody into your dreams and goals. Bring everybody you know, your family, your sister, your brother, everybody. Because they don't think about it, especially if you moved into a different area. They're in Essex County, you're in Morris County or whatever. They just don't think about it until you tell them. They're like, oh my God, of course I'll do that. Like, you know, but sometimes what we think is so obvious is not obvious to our family and friends. You know, it's not.
And Marissa bought her own house, and I am so condo. I am so proud of her because she hasn't been in the business that long, and to be able to buy your own condo on working as a realtor, I think it's great. You know, I think
And that was a goal she had. Again.
I'm sure that's not true. I'm sure that's not true. I'm sure that's not true.
You do buy a condo every year.
Yeah. I know. Okay, so no other questions? And
No,
I have to get ready and.
she has to go bowling.
So
Kelly, we
what-
started at 11:30 today. We didn't start at 12:30.
Hanover. Yeah, East Hanover.
How many people are gonna leave?
Not many, they're still afraid.
They're still afraid.
They're still afraid. Yeah,
Thank you guys so
Yeah.
much for coming.
we have, I'm trying to think,